Some people walk through life invisible, not because they lack a soul, not because they lack a mind, but because others choose not to see them. That was me, the janitor, the man with the mop, the one who entered when the hall was empty and left when the applause had died down. Every evening, I polished the marble floors of that grand university auditorium, the same floors that presidents and poets once walked across, the same stage where bright white faces were celebrated for changing history. And yet, every time the crowd dispersed and the echoes faded, it was my job to sweep their footprints away, like I was erasing myself in the process. Students laughed when they saw me, not directly, not to my face, but in that low chuckle they thought I couldn't hear. Look at him, old man with a broom. That's all he'll ever be. Sometimes they'd leave trash in the aisles on purpose, just to see me bend down and pick it up. And every time my spine curved a little more, like the world wanted me to bow permanently. But I didn't speak. Not yet, because silence can carry more power than words, until the right moment arrives. One night, I overheard something. The university was preparing for its biggest event of the year, the Founders Gala, a night where wealthy donors gathered in tuxedos and gowns, where speeches were made about opportunity and progress. But I knew what progress meant to them. It meant applause for their sons, scholarships for their daughters, and silence for men like me. Still, I polished the stage. I adjusted the microphone stand. I swept the dust into my pan as if I wasn't listening. But I was. Because when the dean walked in with his golden-voiced announcer, I heard them whisper, "We'll have the orchestra play Mozart. Nothing too soulful. We don't want the donors distracted." And I felt it. That familiar sting, that hidden knife beneath their words. Nothing too soulful, nothing too black. They didn't know. They didn't care. That broom in my hand had never been my only instrument. For decades before this janitor's uniform, before my hands were calloused with bleach and polish, I had another life. I was a musician, not just a musician, a composer. But when you're a black man in America during the wrong decade, your music isn't yours. They steal it, rebrand it, sell it with another face. And when you ask for your name in the credits, they laugh like you told a joke. So I stopped asking. I stopped playing. And the world forgot me. Until that night. Because fate has a way of bending its hand at the exact moment you least expect. It happened when the star of the evening, the so-called genius pianist from Europe, fell ill. They rushed to find a replacement, but no one was available. Panic rippled backstage. The donors were growing restless. The dean was sweating bullets. That's when one of the students, drunk with arrogance, pointed at me and sneered, "Why not let the janitor do it? Maybe he can make the floors shine and the piano keys." The laughter that followed, it sliced through me sharper than any blade. The dean chuckled nervously. "Don't be ridiculous. He's just—" But before he finished, I stepped forward. For the first time in years, I didn't look at the floor. I looked straight at him, and I said calmly, with a voice that shook even me, "Set the piano, I'll play." Silence. Utter silence. Then laughter again. Louder this time. "Did you hear him? The janitor thinks he's a musician." Somebody even clapped mockingly. "Come on, old man. Show us how you mop the keys." But the dean, desperate to save his event, looked at me with hesitation. His pride wrestled with his fear. And finally he muttered, "Fine. If you embarrass yourself, you embarrass yourself. But we need sound, any sound." So they sat me at the grand piano, beneath the glittering chandelier, under the weight of 1,000 mocking eyes. My hands trembled at first, hovering above the ivory. Not from fear of failure, but from the ghost of what I had once been. Because when you bury a gift, when you let it rot beneath humiliation and silence, it doesn't die, it waits. It waits for the moment when the world least expects you to rise. And as I pressed the first note, the air shifted, the laughter stopped. Because I didn't play Mozart. I didn't play what they wanted. I played our music. The music of pain, of chains, of stolen years. The music that was sung in fields and whispered in prayers. The sound that carried us through centuries of fire. It poured from my hands like thunder. Each chord a wound reopening. each melody a scar remembered, and suddenly the chandelier didn't shine brighter than me. The sound grew heavy, rising like a storm no roof could contain. Every note carried the voice of generations who had been silenced, and suddenly the gala hall that was built to celebrate the founders felt like a courtroom where their legacy was on trial. I didn't play for applause. I didn't play for pity. I played because the music was mine, because for once they couldn't steal it, rename it, or erase it. The first rows leaned forward, shocked. Some donors clutched their pearls as if hearing truth itself was indecent. But others wept quietly, their pride cracked open by the rawness of sound. One melody bled into the next, sorrow, then defiance, then fire. I pressed harder, faster, until the piano no longer sounded like wood and string, but like 1,000 voices chanting from the grave. We are still here. When I struck the final chord, silence fell. Not the mocking kind, not the dismissive kind. A holy silence. The kind that only comes when the air itself knows it has witnessed something eternal. Then it happened. The donors stood, one by one. Not in polite routine, not in empty courtesy, but with trembling hands they rose as if dragged to their feet by a force older than them all. A standing ovation. For the janitor. For the man they never looked at twice. But applause, my friend, is cheap. What mattered more was the truth that came after. Because when they asked me what I had just played, I told them. My composition, written 50 years ago, stolen, sold, released under another man's name. Gasps rippled across the room. Some recognized the melody, etched into history under a white composer's title. They had taught it in music schools, performed it at festivals, praised it as genius. And now, before their very eyes, the truth had returned to claim its name. I looked at the dean, his face pale, his lips unable to form words. You asked for Mozart, I said, but tonight you got the sound of chains breaking. That night, I didn't just mop the floors of their stage. I burned the dust from their illusions. I forced them to confront what they had buried. And yet, when I walked home, the streets were the same. My uniform still smelled of bleach. Tomorrow I would return to polish their marble again, but I knew something they didn't. Legends don't need statues, truth doesn't need permission, and history doesn't need their applause to outlive them. Because sometimes the most invisible man in the room is the one carrying eternity in his hands. Never underestimate the silence of those you look down on, for the very people you mock may hold the power to rewrite everything you thought was yours.